Welcome to another video, and it's been a little while since I've done one of these, so to mark my comeback we're going to be doing something ridiculously stupid, high risk and probably slightly so it won't be me flying my drone today, it'll be my good anonymous friend flying his Mavic 4 Pro. What we're going to be doing is we're going to do a CE range test up to the Mansell forts, which you can just about see on the horizon behind me, which are 10 kilometers away. We've flown to those with the Air 3S in FCC mode before. What we're going to try and do today is try and fly all the way 10 kilometers range with the Mavic 4 Pro and see if the CE mode has enough range to get to that. In theory it should have, because I think it's stated to have up to 15 kilometers range, but reality is quite often different. So without further ado, let's get straight into it and take off. And once we've taken off, I'm going to talk you through some of the details and also some top tips on how you can get the best possible range out of a drone, including how one of these can be the secret to getting the best possible range out of one of these. Let's get going. Here we go. Okay, when you're ready, let's go. So as I said, we're in CE mode and we're just getting to about 1,600 meters. Signal seems quite strong and no problems so far. Okay, just a quick disclaimer. Obviously in the UK and most parts of the world, it is illegal to fly drones out of line of sight. So don't do this, don't be stupid. I'm certainly not being so stupid to fly this distance myself. That's why I'm getting my anonymous friend to do this for me. But generally, I would not fly a drone that kind of distance. There's no dangers ahead. We've got the open sea. No people, no buildings, pretty much nothing out there apart from a few little boats. So it's very low risk, but it's still legal, so just bear that in mind. Okay, so we had 4,000 meters and still really strong signal. Now previously when we flew the Air 3S in CE mode in this kind of environment, we got to 5,000 meters before it got a bit iffy. So with the RC2 controller in CE mode, that was the maximum we could get to with the Air 3S, which uses the 04 system. This one's got the 04 Plus system and the funky new RC2 Pro controller, so hopefully it's going to give us a bit more range, so we'll see if we can get the whole 10 kilometers, but it's a long way out there and it's all over water and very wet on the way back if you have any problems. Okay, now at 5,000 meters, still full signal strength in CE mode and it's looking really good. With the Air 3S at that distance, the signal got very choppy and we're dropping bars. With this one, it's actually holding up really strong. So I don't know if it's the transmitter or the 04 Plus system, but so far behaving a lot stronger than the Air 3S with the RC2 controller. Okay, that brings me on to the donuts. What do they got to do with transmission signals? Well, this is essentially the shape that a transmission signal is. And if you take an antenna and you place an imaginary, or in this case real donut, over the top of that antenna, this is what that transmission signal will look like, or in this case let's put it like that. There we go. And that pretty much shows you that the weakest point of that transmission signal is the top of that stalk up here. The strongest point is the fat part pointing out here. So in order to get you the best possible transmission signal, you want to be pointing this flat bit of the antenna towards the drone. If you're flying like this, that's going to give you the weakest possible transmission signal and not going to give you any range. So make sure your antennas, which are now really sticky from that donut, are pointed at a perpendicular angle towards the drone when you're flying it. And keep that in mind if you're flying further out. If you're flying above you, then you might want to point it like this. If you're flying out, point it like this. Tip number 2 is be aware of sources of interference around you. So if you've got buildings which are emitting Wi-Fi signals, lots of people with mobile phones, mobile phone masks, things like that will emit interference and can massively impact your range. The next tip is to consider the height of your drone. As you fly out, make sure you gain altitude and get some altitude above the ground, even if there's nothing between you and the drone. That will just give you a better transmission and better strength and more range, and it's just something you have to do. So in this case, we're flying up to about 45 meters, which is, there's nothing between you and the drone, even at 5 meters altitude, but you will get a better range if you fly up to about something a bit higher than 10, 15, 20 meters to give you a better range. The weather will also have an impact. That's something you can't control, but just to be aware of that on some days you will get a slightly better range than on others. So bear that in mind. You can't control it, but that will make a difference from day to day. A couple of other pointers just to bear in mind when you fly these kind of distances. If you want to be naughty, you shouldn't be, but if you want to be, make sure that your drone is set to return to home. It's really important, because if you lose signal, you want to make sure that it doesn't hover in place or try and land. You want to make sure it flies back to you. Seems obvious, but worth remembering. And the other thing with, especially these drones with a lot of obstacle detection sensors, is make sure that your obstacle detection sensing is turned to off. I found with the ER3S, it can behave a bit funky and do weird braking maneuvers if you don't have them turned off. That will impact your range, your battery range that you can get out of the drone. So make sure that your obstacle detection is turned off in order to stop the drone from behaving weird and essentially braking and depleting battery unnecessarily. We're over 8 kilometers out now, signal's still all right. Battery's actually down to 60%, which makes me a little bit twitchy, but hopefully we can make it all the way and then come straight back in CE mode. Who would have thought? Nine kilometers, now pretty much within that filming distance, so pretty much made it. This is really impressive. Okay, absolutely made it. 9.5 kilometers, not quite 10 kilometers, but bloody impressive for CE mode. He's now flying the drone back. Took about 1.5 to 2 minutes of filming up there. If you fly over water, make sure you fly into the wind so that when the drone thinks it's time to turn back, you've got the wind to carry you back, and hopefully that's not going to catch you out, because even with the funky, fancy ways that these drones work out your remaining battery and your range, even factoring in weather conditions and wind, it's always better to have the wind carrying you back regardless, and that's what's happening today. I think we've got about 7.5 to 8 mile an hour wind, tailwind, bring the drone back. Hopefully that's going to be enough to bring it back with the remaining 45% battery at the stage where we decided to turn around. And there we have it, the Mavic 4 Pro has just flown 9.5 kilometers out to those forts and back in CE mode, not FCC mode, in CE mode, which is absolutely phenomenal, because in the past, us Europeans and Brits have always had a little bit of bane of our life that we were tied to the CE mode, when other parts of the world would have that higher power FCC mode, which gives you better range and penetration. Well, guess what? All the way out there and back in CE mode with no problems at all. Just goes to show how good that 04 Plus system is nowadays. And pretty much, as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't even look at an FCC mod or hack with this drone. Now that was with the RC2 Pro controller, but we're not going to leave it there. We're going to do one more test. And that is to answer an important question. Do you get the same distance with the RC2 controller as you do with the RC2 Pro controller? Well, guess what? This is the RC2 controller. We're going to do the same thing again, fly all the way out to those forts if we can. Same altitude, 45 meters, same direction, and see if we can get that same signal strength with this. Literature is a bit vague about whether you get the same range on the 04 Plus system with this controller, with this drone. We're going to test that and see if we can. If not, then that's answered the question of whether it's worth buying an RC2 Pro controller if you're really interested in long range flights. Let's get going. Okay, so we're now up to 6 kilometers with the RC2 controller and still really strong signal and doing really well. Wowza. Okay, and that looks like we've made it 9.5 kilometers with the RC2 controller. And again, no issues at all. So that CE mode with that Mavic 4 Pro, regardless of whether you're using the RC2 or the RC2 Pro controller, appears to be incredibly strong and giving you an amazing range. So really impressive. We're going to take some more videos while we're out there and then fly back, and I'll speak to you when we get back, unless there's anything weird happening, because I'm not going to fabricate any suspense when this seems to be a bit of a easygoing trip. And there we have it. 2 trips to Mansfield Fords, 9.5 kilometers with the Mavic 4 Pro, no problems at all, both with the RC2 and the RC2 Pro controller, which is really interesting because it does go to show that the secret to the better range that you get with this drone is the 04 Plus system, which seems to be built into the drone, not into the transmitters, or from what we can tell anyway, because you could get exactly the same range. It was maybe a tiny bit more framey when we got to the forts, when we were filming up there. There was maybe a little bit more framiness with the RC2 controller, but in terms of the range and certainly feeling fairly comfortable flying that sort of distance, both controllers worked really, really well. So that's actually surprising because I didn't think that would be the case, but it is. So we've learned something today. So whether you've bought yourself an RC2 or an RC2 Pro controller, if you're flying in CE mode, we've concluded that both of these give you exceptionally good range, way more than we've ever seen in CE mode with any other transmission systems. So that's amazing news, and goes to show that these are pretty much equivalent when it comes to range. Obviously, you got nice new features with the RC2 Pro, like the swivel display and the higher nit count. So that's great, but certainly in terms of range, both of these are pretty much the same. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and hope you found it pretty much as gnarly as I did on that first flight, but highly enjoyable and great to be able to take videos of those amazing forts behind me. So as usual, please remember to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Until next time, happy flying, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.